The food at the wedding was extraordinary. 400 guests, senators, oil executives, society women in lace and gele, men in agbada so white it hurt to look at them, sat at tables draped in gold cloth and ate the finest meal most of them had ever tasted. Jollof rice that had been cooked over firewood for 6 hours. Pepper soup that cleared your sinuses and warmed your chest. Suya skewers that dripped fat onto the bone china plates. Small chops so perfectly fried that a woman at table 9 took a photograph before eating hers. The food was the talk of the reception. Guest after guest walked to the catering tent to compliment the team. The groom's mother, a woman in emerald green lace who had planned every detail of this wedding like a military operation, told 3 separate people that hiring this particular caterer was the smartest decision she had ever made. Nobody at that wedding knew that the woman who cooked their food, the woman whose team had been working since 4 o'clock that morning, whose hands smelled of crayfish and palm oil, whose apron was stained with the effort of feeding 400 people, had just watched her daughter get dragged out of the reception by 2 security guards. On the orders of the groom, because her daughter's dress was not expensive enough. Because her daughter did not look like she belonged. Because the groom took one look at a girl in a simple Ankara dress and decided she was embarrassing his event. He did not know who she was. He did not know who her mother was. And he definitely did not know what her late father had helped his own father build. The very fortune that was paying for the suya, the gold tablecloths, the International Conference Center, and the 400-person guest list that was about to watch his world come apart. This is that story. Before we go any further, pause for 2 seconds and help me do something fun. Comment your city and country right now. I want to see how far this community reaches. I am looking for the 2 viewers watching from the farthest apart today, and I will pin the winners. Now back to the story, because what this man does next is going to cost him everything. Obinna Mbachu was the kind of rich that announces itself before you even see the man. His convoy arrived at every event first. 3 SUVs, tinted windows, a driver who opened the door with a bow. Obinna stepped out the way rich men in Abuja step out of cars, slowly as if the air itself needed to adjust to his presence. He was 34 years old. His father, Chief Ikenna Mbachu, had built one of the largest food distribution companies in West Africa, Mbachu Foods. The company supplied rice, palm oil, seasonings, and packaged goods to supermarkets across Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon. By the time Chief Ikenna passed in 2019, the company was worth over 40 billion naira. Obinna inherited everything. Not gradually, not through mentorship or years of apprenticeship. Chief Ikenna had a heart attack at a business dinner in Asokoro, and within 6 months, Obinna was sitting in his father's chair, signing his father's contracts, and driving his father's cars with the confidence of a man who believed he had earned what he had been given. The wedding was his coronation. He was marrying Kamsio Chukwu, a beautiful woman from a well-connected Abuja family. Her father was a retired permanent secretary. Her mother sat on the boards of 3 charities. The wedding was not just a union of 2 people. It was a merger of 2 names, 2 networks, 2 types of Abuja power. The guest list read like a who's who of the Federal Capital Territory. 2 serving senators, the wife of a state governor, a former minister, business leaders from Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Kano. The venue, the Abuja International Conference Center, had been transformed into something between a palace and a garden. White roses flown in from Kenya, a live band from Lagos, a photographer whose Instagram had 400,000 followers. And the food was everything. Obinna's mother, Lolo Nkichi, had insisted on 1 caterer and 1 caterer only, Mrs. Ijoma Obi. She is the best in Abuja, Lolo Nkichi told her son. Her late husband used to supply ingredients to your father's company. She has been catering events for this family for 15 years. Nobody cooks like Ijoma. Obinna shrugged. Fine, just make sure the staff stay in the back. I don't want caterers walking through the reception. They are professionals, Obinna. They know their place. Good, because this wedding is about image. Everything must look perfect. Obinna said the word perfect the way some people say expensive, as though it were a religion. He had spent 11 months planning this event. Every detail was curated. Every guest was screened. Every photograph would look like it belonged in a magazine. What he had not screened for, what he could not have anticipated, was a 26-year-old girl in a simple Ankara dress who would walk through the wrong door at the wrong time and change everything. Subscribe now and stay to the end, because I am going to show you one detail hidden in this story that quietly explains why Mbachu Foods lost 3 major contracts within a month of this wedding, and you will not unsee it once I point it out. This is not just a wedding drama. This is exposure. And we are about to break down exactly how one family's secret came undone, step by step. Mrs. Ijeoma Obi arrived at the Abuja International Conference Center at 4 o'clock in the morning. She brought a team of 23, 3 industrial stoves, 200 kilograms of rice, 40 chickens, 80 liters of palm oil, and a reputation that had been built over 20 years of feeding Abuja's most powerful families without a single complaint. Ijeoma was 57 years old. She was the kind of woman who moved through a kitchen the way a conductor moves through an orchestra. Every gesture meant something. Every instruction was precise. Every plate that left her station was a reflection of her name. Her husband, Mazi Obi, had been a different kind of businessman. He was a food ingredient supplier: palm oil, crayfish, dried fish, locust beans. In the 1980s, he had been one of the first traders in the Southeast to see the potential of packaged food distribution. He had the contacts. He had the supply chain. He had the knowledge of every market from Onitsha to Aba to Calabar. What he did not have was capital. In 1987, he met a young man named Ikenna Mbachu. Ikenna had money, family money from a transport business, but no knowledge of the food industry. Mazi Obi had the knowledge but no money. They shook hands in a warehouse in Niue and signed a partnership agreement on a single sheet of paper. The agreement was simple. Mazi Obi would provide the industry expertise, the supplier relationships, and the operational management. Ikenna Mbachu would provide the capital. Profits would be split 60-40. 60 to Mbachu for the investment, 40 to Obi for the knowledge and the labor. For 8 years, the partnership worked. Mazi Obi ran the day-to-day operations. He woke at 3 in the morning. He drove to markets in the dark. He negotiated with suppliers in 3 languages. He built the distribution network that turned a warehouse in Niue into a company that supplied 6 states. Ikenna Mbachu attended the meetings. He signed the checks. He wore the suits. And slowly, carefully, he began removing Mazi Obi's name from the paperwork. It happened the way theft always happens when the thief is patient. A new company registration, under Mbachu's name alone. A new bank account, with 1 signatory instead of 2. New contracts, signed by Mbachu, with Obi listed as consultant instead of partner. By 1995, the company the 2 men had built together existed on paper as though only one of them had ever been in the room. Mazi Obi noticed. Of course he noticed. He confronted Ikenna in the Niue warehouse, the same warehouse where they had shaken hands 8 years earlier. Ikenna, my name is not on the new registration. My name is not on the accounts. What is happening? Ikenna placed a hand on his shoulder. His voice was warm. His eyes were kind. The same warmth and kindness that had made Mazi trust him in the first place. Obi, my brother, this is just paperwork, tax structure. The lawyers said it is more efficient this way. Your share is the same. Nothing has changed. Then put my name back on the documents. I will. Next quarter, when the restructuring is complete. You know how these things are. Lawyers, paperwork. It takes time. It never happened. Mazi Obi asked 3 more times over 2 years. Each time, the answer was warm, reassuring, and empty. Trust the process. It is being handled. You are my brother. In 1998, Mazi Obi hired a lawyer, a small-time solicitor from Akka. The lawyer reviewed the documents and sat Mazi Obi down with a face that said everything before his mouth opened. Oga, your name is nowhere. The company is registered to Ikenna Mbachu. The accounts are in his name. The contracts are in his name. You have no legal standing. But I built the company. I have the original partnership agreement. Then keep it, because right now, that piece of paper is the only proof that you ever existed in this business. Mazi Obi kept it. He put it in an envelope. He put the envelope inside a Bible. He put the Bible inside a box under his bed. Then he went back to work. Not for Mbachu Foods. Ikenna had quietly replaced him with a nephew by 2000. For himself. He became a caterer. He used the same skills, the supply chain knowledge, the market relationships, the understanding of food that no MBA could teach. And he started a catering business with his wife. It was small, it was honest, and it fed his family. Mazi Obi passed in 2012. Kidney failure. His wife, Ijeoma, took over the catering business. His daughter, Adaeze, was 15. The partnership agreement stayed in the Bible. Ijeoma knew it was there. She never touched it. She was not a woman who chased what had been stolen. She was a woman who built what she could with what she had. But Adaeze was her father's daughter, and she had inherited something more dangerous than the agreement itself. She had inherited the memory of watching her father come home one evening in 2001, sit at the kitchen table and cry. She was 4 years old. She had never seen a grown man cry before. She asked her mother why Papa was crying. Her mother said, because someone took something from him that he cannot get back. Adaeze never forgot that sentence. She carried it the way other people carry scars, invisibly, permanently, and with a slow-burning determination to understand exactly what had been taken. Real quick, pause and drop a comment below. Tell me if you have ever watched someone you love lose something they built, a business, a partnership, a reputation, because the other person had more power, more money, or more connections. Share your story, because this community exists for people who have watched the truth get buried and decided to dig it up. The wedding reception began at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. The Abuja International Conference Center had been transformed. Gold and white fabric draped from the ceilings, crystal centerpieces on every table, a red carpet from the entrance to the high table. The live band played high-life music that made old politicians tap their feet and young wives sway in their seats. The food service began at 2:30. Ijeoma's team moved with precision, 23 people working in silent coordination. The jollof rice was served in custom bowls. The pepper soup arrived in clay pots. The small chops were arranged on tiered silver trays. Every detail was flawless. Adaeze was not supposed to be in the reception hall. She had been in the kitchen with her mother all morning, chopping, stirring, plating. She was not dressed for a wedding. She wore a simple Ankara dress, the kind you wear to Sunday market, not to a billionaire's reception. No makeup, no jewelry, flat shoes. But at 3 o'clock, her mother sent her to the reception hall to check on the dessert station. One of the serving staff had reported that the fruit display needed restocking. It was a simple errand. Walk in, check the table, walk out. Adaeze walked in through the service entrance. She crossed the back of the hall, moving behind the tables, staying close to the wall. She reached the dessert station. The fruit needed restocking. She began arranging the platters. And that is when Obina saw her. He was at the high table, champagne glass in hand, his new wife beside him, the photographer circling them like a satellite. He was scanning the room, not because he was looking for anything specific, but because that is what Obina did. He surveyed, he assessed, he judged. His eyes landed on Adaeze. Her Ankara dress, her flat shoes, her hands on the fruit platter. She looked, to him, like someone who had wandered in from the street. He leaned toward his best man. Who is that? The best man squinted. I don't know. Staff, maybe? She's touching the food display. She looks like she came from the village. Get her out. Bro, she's probably just... I said get her out. This is not a charity event. Everyone in this hall needs to look like they belong here. The best man hesitated. Then he walked over to the security team. 2 security guards approached Adaeze at the dessert station. Excuse me, madam. You need to leave the reception hall." Adeze looked up. "I am with the catering team. My mother is Mrs. Ijeoma Obi. She is the caterer for this event. We understand, but the groom has requested that all catering staff remain in the kitchen area. You are not authorized to be in the reception hall." "I was sent to restock the dessert station. I am almost finished." The guard shifted. "Madam, please, the groom was specific. He does not want catering staff visible in the reception area." Adeze heard what he did not say. She looked down at her Ankara dress. She looked at the gold tablecloths. She understood. She put down the platter. She turned to leave. But Obina was not satisfied with a quiet exit. He was already walking toward her, champagne glass still in hand, his agbada flowing behind him like a sail. "Wait." His voice carried across the nearest tables, heads turned. "Who let you in here?" Adeze stopped. "I was restocking the dessert table." "In that?" He gestured at her dress, a quick, dismissive flick of the hand. "This is a private reception, 400 guests, senators, executives, and you walk in dressed like you are going to buy tomatoes at Woos Market?" Laughter from the nearest table. Not loud, but enough. "I am the caterer's daughter." "I was helping." "The caterer's daughter?" Obina's eyebrow rose. "Then go back to the kitchen where you belong. The kitchen is behind the building. This," he swept his arm across the reception hall, "is not for you." He turned to the security guards. "Make sure she does not come back in, and tell the caterer that if she cannot control her staff, we will find someone who can." The guards took Adeze by both arms, not roughly, but firmly enough that the guests at the 3 nearest tables saw it. A woman in a blue jelly whispered to her husband. The photographer's assistant looked away. A waiter carrying a tray paused, his face tight with the effort of saying nothing. Adeze was walked out of the reception hall through the main entrance, not the service entrance, the main entrance, past the red carpet, past the flower arrangements, past the sign that read, "The Wedding of Obina and Kamsiochukwu Mbachu." She did not cry. She did not argue. She walked with her back straight and her eyes forward, and her hands at her sides. She walked straight to the kitchen. Her mother was there, standing over a pot of agusi soup, checking the seasoning. She saw her daughter's face and put down the ladle. "What happened?" "The groom removed me from the reception hall. He said the kitchen is where I belong." Ijeoma's face did not change, but her hand, the hand that had been stirring soup for 20 years, the hand that had built a business from nothing, the hand that had buried a husband who died without his name on the company he created, that hand tightened around the edge of the counter. "What did he say exactly?" Adeze told her, word for word, including, "Go back to the kitchen where you belong." Ijeoma was silent for a long time. The kitchen sounds continued around her. The sizzle of oil, the clatter of serving spoons, the hiss of the industrial stove. Her team moved around her, unaware that something had just cracked inside the woman who ran their operation. Then Ijeoma said something that Adeze did not expect. "Go home, get the Bible." "Mama?" "Your father's Bible, the one in the box under my bed. Bring it here, bring it now. If you love your mama, you need to subscribe right now. Because at the end of this video, I am revealing the one detail that nobody at that wedding understood. The reason Mbachu Foods lost 3 government supply contracts within 30 days of this reception. There is a secret inside that Bible. And when I show you what it means, you will realize this caterer's daughter did not just embarrass a billionaire. She dismantled a 30-year lie. Trust me, the secret is worth staying for. Adeze came back in 40 minutes. She walked into the kitchen holding her father's Bible, a worn brown leather Bible with gold-edged pages and a broken spine. The same Bible that had sat under her mother's bed for over a decade. Ijeoma took it. She opened it to the book of Proverbs. Between chapters 20 and 21, folded into the crease, was a large brown envelope. She removed the envelope. She opened it. Inside were 3 documents. The first was a partnership agreement dated March the 15th, 1987. 2 names, Mazi Chukwuemeka Obi and Ikenna Mbachu. 2 signatures, One witness, a solicitor in Newi whose stamp was still legible. The agreement outlined a 60-40 profit split. Obi would provide expertise and operations. Mbachu would provide capital. The company name at the top of the agreement, written in both men's handwriting, was Obi Mbachu Food Enterprises, not Mbachu Foods. Obi Mbachu. The second document was a company registration certificate from 1993, 6 years after the partnership began. The company name had been changed. It now read Mbachu Foods Limited. One director listed Ikenna Mbachu. Mazi Obi's name appeared nowhere. The third document was a letter, handwritten, dated January 8, 2012, 3 months before Mazi Obi passed away. The letter was not written by Mazi Obi. It was written by Ikenna Mbachu. Obi, my brother, I am writing this because I do not have the courage to say it to your face. What I did to you was wrong. I took your name off the company because I was afraid that if people knew a market trader from Newi had built the business, they would not take me seriously. I needed to look like a self-made man. I needed the banks to see one name, not two. I told myself it was strategy, but it was theft. You built Mbachu Foods. I only paid for it. If I could go back, I would put your name where it belongs, at the top. But I cannot go back. I can only tell you that I know what I did, and I am sorry. Your brother, Ikenna. Ijeoma held the letter. Her hands were steady, her eyes were not. She looked at Adaeze. Your father kept this letter for 3 months before he passed. He never showed it to anyone. He said, Ikenna finally told the truth. That is enough for me. Adaeze's jaw tightened. It was not enough, Mama. Not then, and not now. Ijeoma folded the letter carefully. She placed all 3 documents back in the envelope. She placed the envelope in her daughter's hands. Go, show that boy what his family name really stands on. Adaeze walked back into the reception hall, not through the service entrance, through the main entrance, past the red carpet, past the flower arrangements, past the same sign she had been walked past 40 minutes earlier. She was still wearing the same Ankara dress, the same flat shoes, no makeup, no jewelry, but she was carrying the envelope. The security guard saw her and moved to intercept. Madam, you were asked to leave. I need to speak to the groom. Madam, please. Tell him the caterer's daughter has something that belonged to his father. He will want to see it. Something in her voice made the guard pause. He looked at the envelope. He looked at her face. He went to get the groom. Obina came. He was irritated. He had been in the middle of the toast speeches. His champagne was getting warm. I thought I told you to stay in the kitchen. What do you want? I want to show you something your father wrote. My father is dead, and I am not interested in whatever. Your father wrote a letter to my father before both of them passed. In that letter, he admitted that he stole my father's share of the business that became Mbachu Foods. The nearest table went silent. A senator's wife lowered her champagne glass. The photographer's camera flash stopped. Obina laughed. You are delusional. Mbachu Foods was built by my father. Everyone in this city knows that. Everyone in this city knows what your father told them. I have what your father told mine. She held up the envelope. This is the original partnership agreement, dated 1987. 2 names, Obi and Mbachu. The company was called Obi Mbachu Food Enterprises before your father removed my father's name. She removed the first document and held it up. This is the company registration from 1993. Your father's name only. My father was erased. She removed the second document. And this, she held up the letter, is a letter from your father, in his own handwriting, addressed to my father. It says, and I quote, You built Mbachu Foods. I only paid for it. The hall had gone completely silent. 400 people, not a sound. The band had stopped playing. The waiters had stopped moving. Even the generators outside seemed to hold their breath. Obina reached for the letter. Adaeze pulled it back. You do not get to touch this. You told me the kitchen is where I belong. You told me this hall is not for me. She looked around the room, at the gold tablecloths, at the crystal centerpieces, at the plates still half full of the food her mother had cooked since 4 o'clock that morning. Every person in this room is eating food that my mother prepared. The same woman whose daughter you just dragged out of your reception. The same woman whose husband built the company that paid for everything you see. She turned to the guests. Her voice did not waver. You are sitting at tables paid for by Mbachu Foods. You are eating food cooked by Mrs. Ijeoma Obi, the wife of the man who started that company. You are watching the son of a thief throw out the daughter of the man he stole from. And until 30 seconds ago, every single one of you was enjoying the meal and saying nothing. The woman in the blue gele put down her fork. The senator at table 3 looked at his plate as if it had just spoken to him. Obina's mother, Lolo Nkechi, rose from the high table. Her face was ash gray. She was moving toward Adaeze, not with anger, but with recognition. She had seen that handwriting before. She knew whose hand had written that letter, and the expression on her face told everyone in the room that the caterer's daughter was not lying. Obina, she said. Her voice was barely audible. Obina, stop. Mama, this girl is… I know who she is. Lolo Nkechi's voice cracked. I know who her father was, and your father. She pressed her hand against her mouth. Your father told me, before he passed. He told me he owed someone. He said the business was not entirely his. Mama. He made me promise to make it right. I never did. I thought if we just kept going, it would not matter. She looked at Adaeze. Her eyes were wet. It matters, Adaeze said. It mattered to my father. He died without his name on the company he built. He died watching another man take credit for his work. And tonight, your son, the man who inherited everything my father created, threw his daughter out of a wedding because her dress was not expensive enough. She placed all 3 documents on the nearest table. The senator at that table stood up and stepped back, as if the paper might burn him. I am not asking for anything. I am not filing a lawsuit. I am not here to destroy your wedding. I came here to restock a dessert table. Your son turned it into this. She looked at Obina one final time. My name is Adaeze Obi. My father was Mazi Chukwuemeka Obi. He built the company that your family name sits on. He did not have a gold tablecloth. He did not have 400 guests. He did not have a reception at the International Conference Center. But he had something your family took from him and never gave back. She paused. His name on the door of the business he built. If you are still here, if you felt that in your chest, then you are exactly the kind of person this channel was built for. Subscribe right now and turn on notifications. Because this pattern, a powerful family erasing a partner's name and then humiliating the partner's descendants, shows up in another story I am covering soon. A case involving a Lagos courtroom, a village girl, and a hidden will. And the evidence revealed in that story is even more explosive than what you just watched. The wedding did not recover. The band tried to resume playing, nobody danced. The MC tried to announce the cake cutting, nobody moved. 400 guests sat in a hall full of extraordinary food and could not eat another bite. The photographer, the one with 400,000 Instagram followers, had been live streaming the toast speeches when Adaeze walked back in. He had not stopped recording. The entire confrontation, from I need to speak to the groom to his name on the door of the business he built, was captured. Every word, every reaction, every silence. It was online within the hour. By midnight, it had 200,000 views. By morning, it was on every blog in Abuja. By the end of the week, it was national news. The hashtag was simple. #Obi's name. The partnership agreement was authenticated by a handwriting expert within 72 hours. The letter, Ikenna Mbachu's handwritten confession, was verified against samples from Mbachu Foods' corporate archives. There was no dispute. The documents were real. Mbachu Foods' board of directors called an emergency meeting. 3 government supply contracts, the kind that require clean corporate governance and transparent ownership history, were suspended pending review. 2 of them were never reinstated. Obina hired a crisis management firm. They advised him to issue a public apology and begin negotiations with the Obi family. He refused. He called it blackmail. He called Ades an opportunist. He called the documents forgeries, even after the handwriting verification. It did not matter what Obina called it. The court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict. Within 3 months, Lolo Nkechi, against her son's wishes, contacted Mrs. Ijeoma Obi directly. She came to the catering kitchen. She sat at the prep table where Ijeoma kneaded dough and her team sliced vegetables, and the air smelled of thyme and crayfish. She brought a check, a large one, and a proposal. Rename the company Obi Mbachu Foods. Restore the original partnership agreement. Give the Obi family the 40% share that had been taken 30 years earlier. Ijeoma looked at the check. She looked at the proposal. She looked at Lolo Nkechi. I do not want your money, and I do not want a share of a company that my husband built and your husband stole. Lolo Nkechi's hands trembled. Then what do you want? Ijeoma smiled. A tired smile. The smile of a woman who has been cooking since 4 in the morning for 20 years. I want my husband's name on the company history. Not the ownership. Not the shares. The history. I want every person who searches Mbachu Foods online to see 2 names at the beginning of the story. Obi and Mbachu. I want my husband to exist in the record. A long silence. That is all? That is everything. 6 months after the wedding, the Mbachu Foods corporate website was updated. The Our History page, which had previously listed Ikenna Mbachu as the sole founder, now began with a new paragraph. Mbachu Foods was co-founded in 1987 by Mazi Chukwuemeka Obi and Chief Ikenna Mbachu in Nnewi, Anambra State. Mazi Obi provided the operational expertise, the supplier network, and the industry knowledge that built the company's foundation. His contribution to the early years of Mbachu Foods was instrumental, and his legacy continues to inspire the values of partnership, integrity, and respect that define this company. Adaeze saw it on her phone. She was in the kitchen, helping her mother prepare for a birthday party. 50 guests, a woman turning 60, jollof rice and pepper soup, and small chops. She showed her mother. Ijeoma read it. She read it again. Then she put the phone down and went back to stirring the pot. Mama, are you not happy? Ijeoma smiled. I am happy, my daughter, but happiness is not why I cook. I cook because your father taught me that work is what matters. The name is just so people know who did the work. She tasted the jollof rice. She added a pinch of salt. Now help me. These 50 guests will not feed themselves. A billionaire kicked a woman out of his wedding because her dress was not expensive enough. He did not know that the woman's mother had cooked every plate of food on every table in that hall. He did not know that the woman's father had built the company that paid for the wedding. And he did not know that the woman was carrying a letter, written by his own father, that admitted the truth he had spent 30 years hiding. The caterer's daughter did not arrive in a Rolls-Royce. She did not wear a designer gown. She did not bring a lawyer or a camera crew. She brought a Bible, an envelope, and a name that had been erased for 30 years. And she put it back. If this story changed how you see the people who serve you food, who clean your tables, who work behind the building while you sit in the reception hall, share it. Send it to someone. Put it in the group chat. Because every kitchen has a story. And some of those stories are worth more than everything in the banquet hall. Click the video on your screen right now to watch what happened when a village girl walked into a Lagos courtroom with a hidden will in her bag. Same pattern. A powerful family that erased someone's name, a daughter who refused to let it stay erased, and a moment where the truth came out in front of witnesses who could not look away. That story has already changed how thousands of people think about inheritance, family secrets, and who gets to claim what. You do not want to miss it.